have said from the beginning that the goal of this podcast is to profile ordinary people living extraordinary lives. So the idea of interviewing a marathon runner trying to make it to the Olympic qualifiers seems far from ordinary. Imagine being able to run a mile in a little over 6 minutes. Now imagine doing that for 2 hours and 45 minutes straight. That's exactly what it takes to be a world-class marathon runner. And that's exactly who Shawanna White is. Shawanna eats, sleeps, and breathes running. On any given weekend, you will find her bouncing around the country, not only racing marathons, but throwing in some 5 and 10Ks and even a few halves just for fun. But as amazing an athlete as she is, what struck me is how humble and normal she is in person. While most competitive athletes can have a rigid plan or schedule and rarely spend much time training with mere mortals, Shawanna's favorite aspect of this sport is the camaraderie that it brings. A lot of her runs are at slower paces with close friends. They're just recreational runners. She shares this and many more hilarious aspects of her lifestyle all on social media. Never taking herself too serious and always remembering to be grateful for the gifts she was given, I know you'll love my conversation with Shawanna White.
They do send me stuff for free, and I talk about it. So I'm
That's
assuming
fantastic.
I am an ambassador for them.
There you go. That's
It's
a
like
good way to do it.
unofficial.
Are anybody else are an ambassador for or sponsored by?
Anything.
Any other products or companies?
Well, I am ambassador for Coco Elite. I am part of Running Rabbit Elite team.
What's Coco Lee?
Cocoa Elite. They have
Cocoa Elite.
they have supplements that are based with cocoa. So they have just regular cocoa that's supposed to increase your cardiovascular endurance, and they also have a protein line as well.
Is that the protein line that you use?
Yes.
Nice. So you're not vegan, or are you?
No, I'm not vegan.
But everything that you've told me so far, like you haven't told me any meat. So what do you have for dinner, or have you had dinner?
I
yet?
haven't had dinner.
And what's
He's
he gonna- he's
actually
making it
cooking.
now?
Yeah, he's gonna make baked spaghetti.
Beet spaghetti?
Bake
Oh, baked spaghetti. Oh, yeah. Now you're talking.
baked spaghetti.
Finally, a real meal in there. I was waiting for. I was like, come on, it can't just be twigs and berries all the time. There's got to have some kind of substance to it. As you can see, I don't miss too many of the meals, so I was real curious about that. But you're obviously skin and bones. So.
Yep.
Oh man.
Tiny.
Yeah. So Mercedes-Benz marathon this weekend.
Yes.
When we were originally doing this, I wanted us to, when I had energy, I was thinking, you know what, we should have a dance off at the end of this because I brought my camera and film and things.
Oh, you did?
But I was like, dude,
You don't have no
I don't know
energy.
if I got it in me to do all that. And like, I just don't know if how good that's going to come off this late in the evening, that sort of thing. But anyway, so this is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Shawanna White.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going great. Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Where are we? What are we doing?
We are here in Columbia, South Carolina, in my dining room.
Hanging out, wrapping
Yeah.
up after a workout and long day, and we were just talking about it. It's my bedtime almost, and you haven't even got to have dinner yet. So thank you for letting us interrupt your busy schedule in order to do this. Really appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you and all the amazing things that you're up to and what you've got coming up, what you've been through, and where things are going from here. Well, let's start off at with what you've got coming up this weekend. Big race, right?
Well, it's not a goal race, but it is a race that I love to do every single year in Birmingham, Alabama. It's the Mercedes-Benz Marathon.
Okay.
And I honestly just have a goal. I just keep returning each year because honestly, I just want to win the race. And I said, once I win the race, I'll stop going. I'll take a break and try another
Nice.
race.
Awesome. How have you fared with that race up to this point?
I think I have ran it the last 4 years. And so far, my highest finish is second place.
Nice. Awesome. So, and I guess Let's backtrack a little bit. This is maybe a B goal for you because your A goal changed quite a bit for this year. Or
Yes.
for, I guess, maybe even wrapping up last year. And I don't mean to start this interview off on a little bit of a sour note, but I do want to take a minute to talk about the Olympic trials and where you're at and what your expectations were and what's going on with that now.
Well, my goal was to try to make it to that start line in Atlanta,
In
being that I am from Atlanta.
in 2 weeks, the Olympic
The lim-
qualifiers in Atlanta.
yes, but unfortunately, I will not be there because I didn't meet the time of sub 2:45. The fastest time I was able to run was 2:45:19. So I'm
Wow.
just missed it by 20 seconds
So literally less than a second per
per mile.
mile
Yeah,
difference.
exactly.
Wow, that's got to be. How did you handle that? Was that tough or
Well, at the time when I ran the time, I was really happy because it was the fastest I ever ran for a marathon.
it was
So,
still a PR for you?
yeah, so you can't
Amazing.
get mad when you run your fastest. Like,
Right?
I like to have a positive approach to life and try to see the good in all situations.
Yeah. And so this year you'll be going to the Olympic trials, but as an observer.
Yes, I'll be a
Yeah.
spectator cheering on
And
all the runners.
and giving you the motivation that you need for the new goal that you've set, which is 2024.
Yes, 2024. Exactly.
And Birmingham will be the first step in that direction. So that's going to be exciting. So let me ask you, what got you started with all this running stuff to begin with?
Well, as a young child, I used to always go outside and play with my friends, and we played various amount of games. And also, when I was in middle school doing field day, I would win all the competitions in field day. And actually, my PE teacher in middle school, he asked me to run track, but I told him no because my grandma wouldn't. My grandma only wanted me to go to school, come home, study, go to sleep, and
Get
sometimes
that
she,
education.
yes, that was her focus for
Very
me.
important.
But then when I went to high school, my high school coach, he saw me in the office one day and he asked me the same question that my middle school my middle school PE teacher asked me, would I be interested in running track? And so this time I told him that he had to ask my grandmother. And so he asked my grandmother. She said yes, as long as he bring me home because she didn't want me to ride Mata that late
Right.
on on a
Sure.
school
On a
night.
school night.
Yes.
And that's how it all got rolling. So
Yes.
what was your first distance in high school? Where did they start you off?
I started out as a middle distance runner. Yeah. I would start off in the 800 and the 1600, and then eventually they moved me up to the 3200. But most of the time with my coach, the way he decided on my distance for the region meet, he would collaborate with the coach from Alexander High School, and they would try to figure out the best races to put me in so I can qualify for state. So one year I ran that
Interesting.
800 and 3200, which is a weird
Right. That's an
combination.
odd
Yeah,
mix.
it's such an odd. I ended up making it out in the 800, and I would have made it out in the 3200 if I would have just ran through the line. I slowed down, thinking that I had second place lock, and then next thing I know, a girl sprint right past me.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
Lesson learned, huh?
yes,
That's yeah, those are some memorable moments there for sure.
yes.
For sure. And then you carried that on into college and had some success there as well.
Yes, in college, I went to the University of West Georgia, and there I was on conference. I made all conference all 4 years. I think that was a school record, but I can't remember if somebody else either tied me for that record or was, you know. But at the
Right there.
time,
Yeah.
it was me, so
That's
I don't
cool.
know.
Very cool. And then so what was your transition over to marathon? Because
Well,
that's a big shift going from, I mean, and you certainly have the structure for those shorter distances. I mean, obviously you thrived in even like the 5Ks and 10Ks, but what was it about the marathon?
well, to be perfectly honest, I really had no desire to run a marathon. I thought people who ran the marathon were not quite right. and
Well, there's some truth to that, though, right? All marathon runners got to be a little bit crazy, don't they?
and I was just like, why would anybody want to run that far?
For
But
that long.
yeah, that's too long to be running. And so one weekend, my boyfriend and I, we ran a race in Conway, South Carolina, and I ran a 5K, a 10K, and a mile all in one day,
All on a Saturday.
all on a Saturday, and I ran decent times, and I placed in all three. And then on the next day, we went to Outer Banks, North Carolina, and ran a half marathon, and I ran 1:22. I had no idea that I would be able to pull such time off after
So let
running
that sink in
all
for a
those
second.
races.
You ran on Saturday. You ran a 5K, a 10K, and a 1 mile race, all competitively, like full on going after it. And the very next day, you came out and ran a 127,
1:22.
122.
Yes.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So at that point, you knew you were on to something. Like
Yeah, I
that's-
was like, I might as well see
that's
what this marathon is all about. So
And so at that point, you were ready to commit. What was the first race, the first marathon that you committed to?
I ran the Sneakers Albany Marathon in
Nice, so
Albany,
a nice
Georgia.
flat one to kind of get you started.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like?
Well, it was not a pleasant experience.
But-
No, it was tough. I ran the first half too fast, and then I eventually hit the wall at mile 14.
Oh, at mile 14. Whoa, you had a lot left to go.
Yeah.
Wait. So tell me, I've got to hear the story of what Shawanna's hitting the wall experience was like. Because I love hearing that experience. But for somebody that at the level that you're at competitively, I'm dying to know what that was like.
Well, it was not pretty at all. Like my legs were hurting so bad. I felt as if they was about to fall off. And
So you said like at mile, so 13 you're plugging along, things are going nice, and then 14 the wheels start to fall off.
yeah,
at that
the
point?
wheels start to fall off, and I start to slow down. And then eventually, I think like at mile 15, I start walking, and I was just like, why am I doing this? This is crazy. This is not fun at all. I don't get why people do this. And then all of a sudden, this lady on the course was like, do you want some oranges? And I was like, sure. So I started eating all the oranges, and I kept walking. And then eventually, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit better after eating those oranges,
Got a
So,
little sugar rush.
yeah, so I started back running, and then a little walking, and then eventually I just started running nice and slow, and I made it to the finish line. I ended up running 3:12, and then after that,
Well, and you still ran a 3:12.
yes, and then after that, I was in a med tent. My friend, well, I had just met her. She was my hotel roommate because the race they put us up in a hotel.
Okay.
And she didn't stay. She left me. By the time I made it to the hotel, she had wrote a note saying that they left, and I hope you are okay.
Oh no.
But yeah, I was in
So
the
you
med.
couldn't walk. You were totally abandoned at that point.
Yeah, I was in the med tent, and
Did they give you an IV?
no, they didn't have to give me an IV.
That's good.
I didn't receive my first IV until this past summer.
No kidding.
But yeah, I was in the med tent, and luckily this guy from Atlanta who was in my run group, who actually is the owner of Spring, one of the owners of Spring Energy, Raphael.
Shout out to Raphael.
Yeah,
Spring
he was so nice. I think he came down with some friends, and he saw that I was having a hard time, and I drove down by myself. So he actually drove me back to Georgia, and then eventually I dropped him off, and I made my way home.
Because your body ceased to function at that point.
Yeah.
Wow, what a saving grace.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Not pretty.
Yeah, but then once I calmed down the next day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this marathon another go because I want to break 3 hours. And once I break 3 hours, I'm done with it. But then, you know what happened.
Then the addiction sets in.
Yes, you want to see exactly how fast
that's
you
so
can become.
funny. That's great. So what was marathon number 2 then?
Marathon number 2 was actually here in South Carolina
No kidding.
at Kiowa Marathon.
Nice, another
And
flat one.
yeah, another flat one. You got to stick to the flat ones when you
Right?
first starting off.
Well,
Um,
especially when you're as fast as you guys are. I mean, that's like, yeah.
yeah, and so at that one, it was during the Olympic trials for the 2012 Olympics. So it was in 2011, and a lot of ladies were trying to qualify. And I remember this one runner, she asked me, "Are you going to go out with us and try to qualify for the Olympic trials?" And I was like, "No, girlfriend. I'm just trying to break 3 hours. And if I see you guys out there, then I'll be like, okay. But I'm gonna stick to my goal of breaking just 3 hours, and I'm just gonna go like 6:45 pace and
That's
see if
amazing.
I can get a little faster. And so as a result, I just kept running. I kept plugging along, and then in the process, I met this young lady on course. She was running a half, and she was trying to run a PR, and I was like, "What time are you trying to run?" And she was like, "Under 128." And I was like, "We're going to get this. If you just stay with me, you'll get the
Yeah,
one,
but
you'll
your
get under."
paces just so happen to work out
Yeah,
perfectly.
and I was like, "Come on, girl, just stick with me." And that was so refreshing because I didn't even feel tired at the halfway point like I did in Albany. So I was like, "Wow, this is going great when you start out slow." So
There's something to this pacing thing, huh?
yeah, and so I just kept moving along, and then like at mile 24, I passed Zola Bud. You know Zola Bud from South Africa,
Uh-huh.
the South Africa runner that was really controversial
Whoa.
with Miri Slangy, yeah, in the 3,000. But I passed her, and she's such a great runner,
Whoa.
and she's like a
Yeah.
master's runner now. And she was like, "You're doing great," and she was like, "You're now in third," and I was like, "What?" I'm
What?
just assuming all the girls who was trying to OTQ, they dropped out when they didn't see they could meet the time. So I was like, how is this even happening? I'm in third place. What? So I just kept running for my life to try to get away from her. And then the next thing I know, I make it across the line and I run 2:55. And all I wanted was to just run 2:59. And I was like, wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And that was on marathon number 2.
Yes, number 2.
Wow. So you blew right through the wall that time.
Yeah.
That's what an
Felt good
incredible
all the way.
experience. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's probably where you may have got some of the addiction as well. It's funny, we get that addiction from either one of two things, either tasting that success and wanting it again, or being terribly disappointing and knowing that we can do better. Unfortunately for me, it's usually terribly disappointing and knowing you can do better. But that's great. That's amazing. What a cool experience on marathon number 2. And those times, man, you talk about them so nonchalantly, and it's just it's pretty crazy. That marathon may have kind of felt like a failure to you a little bit. Do you have a favorite failure or a moment or something, an experience that you learned a lot from?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, this is one that Oracle actually teased me about from time to time. And when I look back on it, I'm like, I cannot believe I did this. But we ran a race in South Georgia. I think it was a 5K. And I didn't have a good day. And I ended up losing to a young runner. And, instead of just being happy that she did a great job, I instead sat in the middle of the road and start crying. And I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, how in the world? Why did I ever do that? But that type of experience helped me to become the runner
You
I
were
am
crying
today.
because you lost, or crying because you failed to meet a goal?
Crying because I lost.
Because you lost to a younger, better
Yes.
athlete kind of thing.
Yeah.
That ego kind of came into play.
Yeah.
And so, what did you learn from that? What was the impact that that had on you after the fact, once you had some time to reflect?
I mean, I learned that with running, being able to run is a gift. And just because I don't meet my goal is not the end of the day because I will have another chance to try again.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
my coach slash boyfriend, he always say to me, what would the man with no legs think about you getting upset about a race? So it put things in perspective.
Yeah, that's funny that you bring that up. I had an experience when I ran my first, or when I did my first Ironman triathlon. I was getting ready for that race and I was like super nervous and I couldn't decide what to do and I was kind of freaking out. I actually I needed something to drink, so I was going to go into the bathroom to get some water out of the faucet because you're at the beach and there's no way to get water. I actually go into the women's restroom. I'm so nervous to get water. Like I go in the wrong bathroom. But anyway, so I'm at the beach and I'm at the starting line. I'm waiting for things to kick off and I'm really totally second guessing, having all these doubts, all these questions about whether I can do this. And as I'm doing that, I noticed this silhouette that's kind of coming out of the water because it's right at sunrise when they kick these races off. And this figure, he's kind of walking towards me. It's just one of the racers. But I noticed his silhouette is different than everybody else's. And the reason why it's different is because he doesn't have any arms. One arm is at the elbow and the other one is just a little bit off of the shoulder. And man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. This dude is about to do this race with no arms.
Yeah.
And you're sitting here freaking out. You've got all your limbs. You don't have any excuses. And you're freaking out and you're nervous and you're second. This guy's about to do something that's 10 times harder than what you're going to do. And it was something about that moment that gave me that fortitude, gave me that little bit of extra confidence. Like, all right, dude, if he can do this, you can do this. And
Exactly.
That's always kind of been a motivator for me. It's like there's always somebody else that's doing it. There's always somebody else or doing more, quite frankly. Like there's always somebody who's got it harder than you, that doesn't have it as easy, hasn't had the breaks that you've had, that's out there making it happen.
Yeah.
It makes it real easy to eliminate a lot of those excuses
Exactly.
that you come up with. Speaking of that, so like what's a perfect or ideal day look like for you? I imagine that involves some running.
Yeah, like if I can pick my perfect day, my ideal day is summertime when I'm off from work and I'm able to sleep in and then I'm able to get up and go run with my friends because some of my friends they work from home and so sometimes it's hard to run with them because they run like at 10 o'clock and that just doesn't fit with my
Doesn't work
schedule.
for some of us working folks, right?
No, not at all. So it would include some running with my friend, then coming back, relaxing, and then probably going to a park and read a book. Yeah,
Nice.
that would be a great day for me.
One of the things that really appealed to me about you, most road runners are very competitive, and they have, especially people at your level, and they have a lot of very big goals that they're going after. So in the process of doing that and having those big goals, they tend to have very structured workouts, very structured runs where they aren't really willing to run with a lot of other people or kind of stray from their routines. One of the things that's so neat about you is that you, despite the fact of how competitive you are and all the competitive stuff that you're doing, you run slower paces with other people. Like a lot of your runs are at my level, which is like, which is like almost going backwards for you. But tell me a little bit about that because that's not something that you see with a lot of road runners, especially competitive ones.
Yeah, I think it's really important to run easy. And so by running easy, it allowed me to run with different people. And I just enjoy people and just being around people. So that's why I do it because like my coach have it set up like I only do 1 to 2 hard workouts a week and then the rest is easy.
No kidding.
Because we race almost every single Saturday and so the
Right.
Saturday races are used as workouts.
That's considered a hard workout day for sure. Yeah.
So I mean it's just really a joy to just run with other people and sometimes I can help them out with their workouts and just the fellowship in a community.
Yeah, that's such a big
I
part
love
of it,
it.
right? Like
Yeah.
for me, like that's what running is for me. Because I've never been, I've never had the level of success that you've had. So I've always used running as like a little bit of a getaway, a chance to kind of get up with buddies, a chance to kind of have that community kind of experience.
Yeah, and like what I found, Nate, is that the most times I have the greatest runs is when I share with other people. When I try to be structured and just run by myself, that's when I don't run my best. But I run my best when I share with others.
Isn't that funny? Well,
Yeah.
we were talking about too, like even in some of your races, some of those races where you linked up with somebody and had that partnership, that actually kind of drove you to have even a little bit better race than even that you realized you were having.
Yes.
And quite frankly, for me, like, it makes it a good distraction.
Yeah.
It takes away from some of the pain and suffering, and like it makes those miles click off a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. How many
Try.
marathons have you done at this point?
24.
24.
Yes.
And how old were you when you did your first one? Or how many years ago? We won't discuss age.
Well,
How many years ago was it when you did your first?
I don't exactly know how old I was when I did it, but I just recently turned 40, and I'm excited to be a master's runner because now it
Welcome to the
opened.
old people's club.
Yeah, it just opened the doors to new opportunities and to meet new people because I plan on running some of the USA track and field championships for masters runners now. So I'm super excited about that. But back to your question, my first marathon was back in 2011. So, I mean, you can do the math real quick
Yeah.
to figure out how old I was. So,
I didn't even think about that from your perspective, because for me, like, I rolled right into the Masters a long time ago, but that for you, for somebody at a competitive level, that, like you said, it gives you a whole new set of goals, a whole new set of things to work at, and to a whole new level of competition, even like the people that you're going against.
yes, exactly. It's
That's going to be pretty exciting.
new PRs. I mean, I'm always trying to run a personal best, but
Right.
now I can run some masters PRs as well.
Yeah. Well, and quite frankly, probably set some records in the process.
Well, yeah, I actually set a record about 2 weeks ago for South Carolina in the 15K. Well, it was really an exciting race. Like two records were broken. The open record for open female, she broke the state record, and then I broke the masters for 40 and over. Well, 40 to 44, I broke that record for that age group.
Right.
And so that race, it was a nice day. It was actually like 45 degrees. It was great competition. I mean, it was a great field, and those ladies helped to pull me to a fast time, and I ended up placing third overall in the female competition and running
And
50.
Masters winner.
And well, it
Oh, I
not.
guess you can't win. You
Yes.
don't get to be Masters winner when you take the top three, do you?
Well, it just depends on the race and their rules. But for this race, you only either or. So
You can't have all
you
the
can't.
accolades.
You can't have all.
We got to give some to some of the other.
Yeah, but this race I'm running this weekend, that's a different story.
Oh, nice. The Birmingham Marathon?
Yes,
Nice. So you can do both.
Yeah, you can do both. They allow double dipping, which I think is right because when you think about it, and I'm not just saying because I'm a master's. I've been saying this since day one for master's athletes because, I mean, it's pretty impressive for a 40 and up to be in the top three. Like, so why not award them both prizes?
Well,
Because it'll motivate more
sure.
ladies and men to keep running
Well, and
as
at
they
the
get
end of the day,
older.
you earned it, right? I mean, it's what you earned.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I did want to bring up. And I didn't realize that you had crossed over into Masters. So I'm actually glad that you brought that up because and I wanted to bring it up in the context of the Olympic qualifiers. When we were talking about you, she's like, well, what's she like in her 20s or something? And I was telling her, like, I knew you were at least in your 30s. And she's like, you mean she's competing against these 20-year-olds for the Olympics and stuff? And I was like, well, yeah, but what you don't understand is like the 20-year-olds aren't the sweet spot anymore. The 30 to 40 range, I mean, that it's amazing to me how what we considered at your prime 10, 20 years ago is nowhere near what it is now. Like, especially with endurance sports. Endurance sports, like, I don't even think you're really starting to hit your stride until at least 30, 35, in my opinion, from what I see.
I believe, yes. I mean, because there's some ladies out there in their 40s that are running some impressive time that are going to be in Atlanta. For one, Roberta Grona, she ran 2:29 at Rotterdam last spring, I believe.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Amazing.
And I'm so inspired by that to see what I can do.
Yeah, well, and it just goes to show you, like, so much of this is about mindset and what we think is possible versus what we're willing to work out and go for. And
Yes.
and even if we come up a little bit short in the process, like, what you gain out of that in the long term, it's
so
serves you
much
well.
more.
And quite frankly, it's inspiring a lot of other people to try to do more. Like, I think a lot of the folks that are looking for motivation to begin to get in shape get more motivation seeing a 40-plus athlete go out there and do something as opposed to a 20-year-old? Because you expect the 20-year-olds, you expect the young ones to be able to, bounce off of walls and run like they're walking on water and that sort of thing. But when you see a 40-year-old or a 60-year-old or something like that really making something happen, and then it eliminates a lot of excuses, right?
Yeah.
It changes the dynamic for sure. So you said a perfect day for you would be sleeping in a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it safe to assume? That you're a night owl and not an early bird?
Well, I am not a night owl, and I'm
I mean,
not.
you're an early bird by
I'm an
force
early.
because you have to go teach a bunch of little rugrats physical education every day. But
Yeah.
if it were up to you, what would you be?
I would like to just wake up about 8 o'clock. So I don't know if that's still considered early, but
That's like a normal.
eight is my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Anything before that, I mean, I don't really like it, but I just do it because I know that's what I need to do to get the job done.
Do you have any morning or evening routines that you try to stick to?
No, I just kind of go with the flow on what I need for the week based on my mileage. So if it doesn't require me to wake up and run in the morning, I don't. But if I'm like at a heavy mileage then where I have to run a double, then I'll run in the morning and I'll run in the afternoon. The only thing that I do like to do in the afternoon all the time is hard workouts.
So your main hard workout is typically in the afternoon?
Yeah, after
I
work.
guess you have to fit it in after school.
Yeah, I particularly don't like to wake up that early and try to do a workout. But this week I did because yesterday I ended up having dinner with my friend who's moving away. So
Yeah, so you got to fit it in where you fit it in.
Yeah.
Well, that was the same thing for me. I'm having to rearrange my schedule a bit this week to try to fit it all in, get it wherever you can.
when things are important, that's what you do.
You make the sacrifices that you need to. So you don't have any necessarily like morning or evening routines. Is there one habit that you have that most people may not have that has contributed to some of your success?
I would. I can't. The only thing I would think is, I mean, most people don't understand how I'm able to perform at such a high level and race as much as I do. So
Yeah, so that's a great point. I don't know that this got recorded when we were talking earlier. It is not uncommon for you guys to run 2 or 3 races per weekend.
yes,
That's crazy.
and it just go back to the whole mindset thing. Like we believe that we can do it, and so that's how we're able to do it. It's nothing special.
And having to travel in between sometimes, like you were talking about, like this weekend, you've got one race that's in South Carolina, then you're having to travel to Birmingham, right?
Yes, but unfortunately, with me, I'm going straight to Birmingham.
Oh, okay. So you're not going to do the other one.
The other 2 are going to come from Georgia to Birmingham.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. What's something odd, weird, or different about you compared to most other people, besides the fact that you're lightning fast?
Odd and weird.
But
I guess what's kind of odd is that, well, see, honestly, it's not odd, but I'll explain in a minute why it's not odd. But I do.
It sounds like it's going to be odd.
I do Friday dances every Friday, and
How'd that start?
well, honestly, it started. I got the idea because I heard this other girl on the podcast, and she said that she does dances in a unicorn outfit before races, and so I was like,
What podcast is this? I need to check her out. Do you remember?
it was the Rambling Runner
Rambling
podcast.
Runner. I'll have to check her out.
Yeah, and I was like, what can I do to make that's funny and make me happy? And I thought about dancing. And what's really funny is I really can't dance, but
That's so great that you. I was hoping to bring this up because.
but I enjoy dancing.
Yes.
It's fun. And also, growing up as a kid, me and my friend Carmen, we used to dance for her daddy customers because he was a mechanic, and he would do work at home as well as his regular job. And we would do these dances. And I don't know if, as a child, if I had more rhythm and I just lost it as an adult. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna do these Friday dances because at first I was doing like parodies of pictures of people. I would just get on Instagram and I would do the same pose to make just a parody
Yeah,
because I saw
yeah.
Salty Running doing it and I was like, oh, that's really cool and pretty fun and it's gonna make people happy and you
Yeah,
know,
bring a little joy to the world.
yeah, and that's what I wanted to do. And so
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Instead of doing all these pictures and copying these pictures from people's pages, I can just do dances every Friday and sometimes I can get some friends to join in.
Well, I have to tell you, it definitely hooked me because that was really what started our relationship was seeing those Friday dances. Because like, you know, being an old crusty white guy, I like to think I have a little bit of dance skills. But then to see somebody who is young and fit and like obviously a super fast runner, and to see that lack of dance skills, and I'm so glad that you put that out there.
Yes.
It just tickled me to death. It just really gets me. So if we'll plug your Instagram page at the end of the show because we give everybody a chance to plug everything. But check out the Instagram page, check out the Friday dances, and you'll see what we're talking about. It's good quality stuff. That is something definitely weird, odd, or different about you compared to most other people, for sure.
Yes.
That's awesome. I love it. How do you increase knowledge? Do you like to read? Do you do podcasts? How are you increasing your education, whether it be for running or otherwise?
Well, whether it's from running or for my job, which I'm a physical education teacher, I like to read. I like to learn from other people. My coach, he's really smart. He knows a lot of stuff and he helps me to learn a lot of stuff as well. And I also love to listen to podcasts.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a couple that you're into. Any podcasts in particular that you're really into that we haven't already covered?
I really enjoy listening to running podcasts because I'm a super runner and it's really funny because I got a massage earlier today and I was talking about the Olympic trials and I was spitting out all these people times and what they did and my massage therapist she was like, you can be like a sports announcer. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I know a lot of facts about different people.
Especially for the running world, right? Like you can just
Yeah.
rattle them off.
So I like Lindsey Hine and Allie on the Run.
Yeah.
Those are and the Rambling
Yeah.
Runner. Those are my three favorite.
Oh, we can't forget our buddy Phil,
Yeah,
our
I haven't.
mutual friend.
Yeah, I really need to check out his podcast.
Well, he's only
and-
got a couple episodes.
Yeah,
so don't
I
feel
know.
too bad.
It's just
And they're short,
started,
too.
so
Yeah, he's just
I
getting
probably
warmed
will
up.
listen to some of them this
Yeah.
weekend on my drive.
I'm looking forward to getting him on here as well. He's taken that next step into the whole endurance world, man. That whole 100+
Yeah.
that's opening a whole nother can of worms. So I did want to ask you about that. Because you kind of have that mentality of running with friends and that sense of community, that's very common in the folks who like to run on dirt, which I'm one of those people, the trail runners. Have you ever thought about doing any of the trail running, any of the endurance stuff, or getting into that realm?
Okay, so you see, I don't know if you can see my knee, and people probably can't see
Yeah,
it.
they're not going to be able to see it on the
but
show, so we'll have to explain it to
I am not good on the trails. I tend to fall down a lot.
them. Did you fall on your knee that tore it up, or did you have some surgery done? Or what
No, I
happened
haven't had to have any surgery, but I fell on the trail on the first day of the year because I was like, I am going to go run on the trail with my friends and start the new year off on a different surface.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, I fell on the ground and hit my knee. And then from there, I've even been falling on concrete. So I'm just falling
messed
into
you all up.
2020. Yeah. But I don't know about the trails. I mean, I did run a 5K last year in North Carolina, and that one was okay. It wasn't too technical.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really want to venture out into the trails. I need to just get a little bit more practice because I think I can be really successful on the trails because I enjoy just running.
Yeah.
Just simply just going out and just run as long as I can. So it seems like my type of people.
For sure. Oh, it's definitely your crowd for sure. But it is a different kind of running. That's what I've found. And for slower folks like me, it's you kind of forget about the PRs and the some of the pacing. It's more about just kind of like the survival kind of
Yeah,
mentality,
survival mode.
just so again, it kind of changes. You're more worried about picking up your feet than getting like that max stride and max efficiency that you're probably like already doing automatically in your mind. So yeah, it definitely changes the dynamic of it all. Do you run with music much at all?
No, I do listen to podcasts on easy runs when I run solo.
But when you're doing your workouts, it's you're dialed in. You're
No.
you're getting
Yeah, I'm
you're getting
focused.
yelled at by your coach or something. I think right, kind of sort of deal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that dynamic a little bit because that can be difficult to have a relationship with someone that's also your acting as a coach or a mentor. How did that get started, and what is that dynamic like?
Well, originally I had another coach in Georgia, but unfortunately he stopped coaching me, and then I started coaching myself. And so I remember one day I asked, his name is Orenthal, but I call him Rashad. The same person, guys. And so,
Where does Rashad come from? Is that a middle name or a
yes,
nickname or
that's his
middle
middle
name?
name,
Okay,
and most family members call him Rashad.
okay.
And so, yeah, so I just remember one day I was asking him, I was like, do you think I should do this? And he was like, no, I think you should cut this out, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And then eventually one day I was just like, do you want to coach me? And he said, okay. And so,
Were y'all dating at the time?
yeah,
Yeah, we're already dating
yeah,
at
we
that
was
point.
already dating.
Got you.
And I don't remember the year, but yeah, we was already dating. And so he started coaching me, and since then I have been improving in all distances. So
Yeah, clearly he's doing something right, huh?
yes.
Now, how does that dynamic play out at home? Is it a different relationship once you guys get home? Do you like kind of have a switch that you kind of turn off and shift gears, or does it bleed over into the personal stuff as well?
Yeah, it just blend into our life.
It's just kind of a natural
Yeah, it's a
fit.
natural thing.
That's cool. That's really neat. And what a blessing to have someone as talented as him. Because, I mean, not only is he a great coach, but dude's got his own set of wheels, too. Man, he can fly. The
Yeah.
numbers that we were just talking about before we got started, man, all the things you guys do just really blow me away. They're really just next level for sure. So, what do you think the future holds in this sport? I know it was a big thing with breaking the 2-hour marathon in Berlin this year, unofficially, I
Yeah.
guess. Where does the future lie with this, with running in general, the sport, the industry, if you will? What do you think is going to be big?
Well, I think right now we can see that people are getting really encouraged by other people' performances, and for the Americans, they're performing at a new level. In Houston, we just had about, I don't know, maybe 10 guys that ran under, was it 62? Yeah, they all ran under 62 minutes for a half marathon. So I just feel like when it comes to American distance running, that it's just gonna keep getting faster because
Well, and we've got the most ground to make up too, because I mean, like
yeah.
America, that's one area and athletically that we don't have a dominance on like we do some other sports. I mean, we're not the best in long distance runners by a
No,
long stretch.
no, we have a long way to go. And I see more groups are forming together to train like the rest of the runners in the world because mostly the East African, they train in big training groups. So that's why they produce so many fast runners. And now the US is starting to do the same. So I just hope to just see people getting faster. And I'm hoping that they'll make sure the sport is clean and make sure we have athletes who are doing it the right way. And I wish people with the shoes, I don't know if you heard about the vapor flies.
I did not.
Oh,
Tell
you
me.
don't know about
I
the vapor?
don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, the vapor flies are these Nikes,
Yeah.
and they supposed to make you faster, but I don't. I still am kind of unsure about whether they make me fast or not, or give me an advantage over any other runners, but a lot of people say that it does, and the research and science says it does, but I don't know. To me, it's just a shoe that feels good on my feet. And I always been a runner that anything that feel good on my feet, I can pretty much run fast in. Like when I ran my 2:45, I ran it in Skechers, and
No
it was
kidding.
and it was a model that they first just released maybe a few months, and I only ran a total of 4 miles before I jumped in the hat with the marathon in them, and I ran my PR in them. So for me personally, it's just
It's
any
not
shoe.
about the shoes.
It's just any shoe that feels good on my
Yeah,
feet.
for
Yeah.
sure. Well, and you brought up an interesting concept I wanted to circle back around to, that why the East Africans have had so much success about running in groups. And you've seen the Americans kind of try to shift some of that mentality. But you guys have also added that mentality to your training and to the program. And we're going to get into this more with Orenthal later. But let's talk about what you guys are doing with the Kenyans.
Yeah, throughout the year, we actually host different runners from Kenya, male and female. And it's really been cool because we get exposed to their culture. We get to see how they train. We get to train with them. We get to eat like them.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, they get to kind of share in what's working on both sides. They get access to, some of the higher grade facilities and access to some of the training and stuff, and you guys get whatever they got that's working, man, because they are doing something right.
Yeah.
For sure. Unbelievable. Yeah, no, it's funny when I first got here, I rolled up and you got a dude out in the yard just doing his workout, get stretching and doing his thing. I'm like, well, that's definitely not Orenthal, but like it's just a community of runners over here. It's just looked at par for the course, It was awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: we talked about the shoes not being that big of a thing. What's some of the worst advice you hear with running? You've certainly heard some good advice over the years, and I'm sure you've heard some bad advice, and there's plenty of it in the running world. What's something that struck you as funny or just really stupid as far as advice goes?
That is a good question. Okay, some bad
Or maybe what's a common mistake you see a lot of runners do? Maybe something like that.
Well, a common mistake is trying something new on race day when it deals with food
Yeah.
or
Shoes.
shoes.
Like,
But
don't wear a brand new pair of shoes.
yeah, don't be like me. I'm a special, unique, weird.
Maybe we'll say freak of nature.
Yeah, I'm different.
With the highest complimentary.
Yeah,
needs.
I'm different, and I like to do things outside the box. I don't like to be like everybody else. So I'm up to trying. I'm up to trying new things on the run. Like I would try nutrition in a race.
For the first time?
Yeah, for the first time.
But you're telling people don't do that.
Yeah, I'm telling people not to do as I do.
Do as I say, not as I do.
That's right.
I love it. It's not like me talking to my kids.
So, yeah, I pretty much give my own self the worst advice.
Yeah. Okay, so here's an interesting one for you. What's your favorite item under $100 that you use on a daily basis that you could not live without?
Being a runner, my Roga foam roller.
Your foam roller?
Yeah,
Nice.
I have to use that on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's most runners could not live without that, especially on the hips, man.
Yeah, gotta keep the muscles happy.
I could not do it without those hips. And you get those regular massages too; those help a lot too.
Yes.
But those end up being more than $100 over time.
Yeah.
For sure. What's the biggest budget expense that you guys have to have or what's a budget expense item on your family budget? Maybe that a lot of other people don't have to have.
Well, see, what's really cool with us, we don't really incur that much because most of the races we get comp entries.
Right.
Some of the races we get free hotel and travel.
No kidding.
Yes.
Is that through sponsors or is that through races? Through the race organization?
What the race offer.
No kidding.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So it really helped with the expenses. So it's like I sometimes forget that some of my friends, they have to pay for all of these races. And I mean, we run over 70 races in a year. So you can
That's
imagine
amazing.
if we had to pay for every single one, I don't know how we would be able to do that. But
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, being talented, it has its perks.
It has its advantages, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, what is one of the biggest challenges about trying to live that kind of a lifestyle?
I guess the biggest challenge is doing it with a regular 9 to 5 because sometimes for me personally, I'm tired or I'm either tired, really tired after work, or I'm tired when I get to work if I
Right.
actually run.
Well, yeah, if
So
you're coming off like 2 or 3 races in a weekend, Monday is like you're wiped out.
yeah, it's pretty hard. And then being a PE teacher, I'm always on my feet, so
Right.
that just adds
More
extra.
physically demanding.
Yeah, it just make it more demanding for me, but I love it, so I just roll with the punches.
That's awesome. Who would you like to interview if you had a podcast, or who fascinates you?
Well, runners.
I figured as much. Anyone in particular? I mean, I figured you could probably go down the whole list of ones you'd like to talk to, or anyone in particular that's real inspiring for you in particular.
Well, I would like to learn more about different Black American distance runners, being that there's not a lot at a high level. And when I say Black Americans, I mean people that are born here in the United States. So I would like to learn more about the first African American, Marilyn Bebbins, who ran the first sub 3 hours. I would also like to learn about some people that I follow on Instagram, like Natalie. I think her Instagram handle is Nats Runs. And then I also would like to learn about Peyton Thomas. She just qualified for the Olympic trials at CIM. So
Nice.
just some people that I follow on Instagram that are Black Americans or African American
Yeah.
runners, and also some ladies in New York. There's some fast African American runners up there in New York that I would like to learn about as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you have like the East African contingent that wins everything typically, but then you've got these Europeans that tend to be that next batch or that next level, and then you tend to see the Americans after that. And it is kind of interesting that in the endurance or in the longer distances you don't see that same level of dominance.
Yes.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book is David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. It's really good. And I plan on one day listening to the audio because I heard
Does
that's
he
even,
do does he do the audio?
yeah,
Yeah, I
it's,
bet that's
they say
intense.
it's even better
Well,
because I think like afterwards it goes into like a podcast where he's talking more about it and whatnot and going into more details.
yeah.
So I think that would be, yeah, that's my favorite book.
There's a great book that Jesse Itzler wrote that's Living with the Marine. And he brought David Goggins, before David Goggins became David Goggins, who he is now. Jesse Itzler saw him at the one of the 100-mile races out in Cali and asked him to come live with them. And so David Goggins moved into his home with him for like 90 days. And the whole book is just the experience of having David Goggins live in your house with you. And it is
Nice.
hilarious. It's such a good read. And Jesse Itzler's a good storyteller anyway.
Okay, I have to
But
check that out.
yeah, check it. It's all about, but it's just this life with David Goggins, man. And it's pretty serious. It's that guy, man. He works on a different level.
Yeah, he's very intense and
He
just
is
straightforward.
intense is the right word. Very intense. How do you track your workouts? What do you use for all your tracking and everything?
I use Garmin Connect and Strava.
Okay, so you're on Strava. I need to connect with you on Strava. I don't think we're. Well,
Yeah.
that's just going to be depressing. I probably don't want to connect with you on Strava. I don't want to see your numbers. It'll be insane.
You'll see some of my easy days.
Yeah, that'll make me feel better. It always does make me feel better when I see your easy runs on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, so see, she's sometimes human too, you know.
Yeah.
What's the most when you do listen to music? What kind of music are you into?
I like all kind of music from country music, R&B, pop,
What's the most
any anything that sounds good on the
What's the
ears.
most embarrassing song that you have on your phone right now?
Oh,
Or
well, well, it's
or this?
embarrassing that all the things on my phone is deleted, so I don't have any music
Oh
on my
no.
phone. No, I just have a bunch of podcasts.
Nice. Well, I
Yeah,
like the fact that you don't spend time with the music so much and do focus on the learning and stuff, because when you're training as much as you are, that's you have a lot of time to kill, and it's a great way to kind of get the benefits of both. You get the physical stimulation and the mental stimulation. And I've found as well, like I tend to retain more when I'm listening to it, like during exercise and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
cool.
my two favorite songs that I like are "Cake," "Going the Distance." Have you ever
Nice.
heard that
I
song?
do know that song. Yeah.
Yeah, and then "Champion" by Carrie Underwood.
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah.
cool. Cheesy ones, right in my wheelhouse for
Yep.
sure. So mentors. Obviously, your boyfriend and your coach acts as a mentor, but one person in particular that was a mentor for you was your grandmother.
Yes.
Any experiences or stories that you could share about life with Sarah that you'd be willing to share, or anything that made a lasting impact on you with her?
Let's see. I th- I think what I learned earlier in life that I was kind of like a social person. I used to like talk a lot, and my grandma basically taught me the hard way that there's a right time to talk and there's a time to talk and there's a time to be quiet.
Be
And
seen, not heard.
yeah, and so after getting so many reports from my teacher for excessive talking, you know, she taught me the hard way. She would have me to go outside and I would have to pick a branch from the tree and she would give me a whooping and that
Old
and
school
that
style.
and
Nice.
that helped to get some sense into me. And then also another thing that I love from my grandma is that she really didn't believe in going to the hospital. She tried to cure most things on her own. And so as an adult, I kind of simply do that too. And I tend to not get sick very much where I have to go to a doctor. The only doctor I go to is a chiropractor. But far as and I get my regular physical each
Nice.
year. But yeah, that's what I really enjoy from her. But my one grandparent, my granddad on my dad's side, like he helped me to be a tough person and helped me to realize that in this world, people are gonna say things that may try to bring you down, but you have to be stronger and you have to keep moving. And the reason I say this is because I remember the first day when I was excited about running track, and I went over there during the weekend. And I was like, Granddad, I'm gonna run track. And he was like, Girl, you can't run no track. And I was just like in shock. And I was like, Are you serious? And he's like, Yeah, I'm serious. And I was like, Okay. So I'm thinking like, wow, I can't believe my own granddaddy can't don't think I can run. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna prove him wrong. And so I ended up proving him wrong. And then later on in life, he told me he did that on purpose because he wanted me to go out and run because he knew if he said that he was happy, there was a chance if it got hard that he
You
knew I
wouldn't
probably
you
would have
wouldn't stick
quit.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just gave me that extra motivation to keep going when the
That's great.
tough get.
Yeah.
I can't even say it
When the
right,
going
but
gets
get
tough,
tough.
the tough
Yeah.
gets going. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So.
That's great.
All
Well, and
right.
it's funny because we respond to different things. Some of us need some of that warm coddling and that easing away. Sometimes we need the challenge. We need the gauntlet thrown down for us, and that sounds like that's what he did for you. That's great. That's awesome. As we wind these interviews down, I always want to give people an opportunity to plug any of their social media, but also to any businesses or organizations, anything like that they support, or charities, anything like that. If you want to put it out there,
Okay. Well, on Instagram, I am peachrunner26.2, and I'm also on Facebook as Shawanna White. And
two ends.
yep, two N's. That's right. And I'm not on Twitter. Well, I am on Twitter, but I'm not active, so don't follow me there.
Yeah, it's tough. I struggle with the Twitter stuff.
And also some good things that I like are Rabbit Apparel. They make clothes for women and male, and they're really comfy and they look good. So you should definitely.
They got a website or anything?
Yes, it's called runningrabbit.com. And then also for my nutrition, I love Spring Energy. It's awesome. You know, it helps you to not hit that wall, give you long lasting energy to run all the miles.
Awesome. That's great. Shawanna, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today, and enjoy the qualifiers. I know everything didn't play out quite like you expected it to, but I have no doubt you're gonna be back in 2024 and big exciting things to come.
That's right.
Thanks for taking the time.
All right.
Hey y'all, thanks for listening. So what'd you think? What did I miss? Anything that you wanted to hear that I didn't cover? What do you want to know more about? Who would you like to see on the show? Hit us up on social media and tell me what you think. Check us out on iTunes and please leave a review. We're now on Patreon, and your support there helps let us know we're headed in the right direction. We have a lot of exciting new things coming, fascinating guests, and some of the craziest stories you won't believe. So stay in the loop and check out more great content by subscribing at our website, 8keysto great.com. Special thanks to my guests and all those of you living an extraordinary life. This is Nate G. We'll see you next week.